What happens when the loudest genre in music history slows down? When guitars that once screamed with fury instead cry with tenderness. The result is the rock ballad, the place where rebellion meets vulnerability. Where stadiums full of fans scream, not with rage, but with heartbreak. Tonight we're diving into the ballads that define the 80s and 90s. Songs so powerful, they've outlived their eras. Songs that became wedding vows, breakup soundtracks, movie finales, and the quiet echo in your headphones when the world felt too heavy. These aren't just tracks on a playlist, they're monuments of emotion. And once you hear their stories, you'll understand why the ballad became rock's most enduring weapon. Every Breath You Take, the sting of obsession. At first listen, Every Breath You Take, by The Police, feels like the ultimate love song. A soft melody, Sting's smooth voice, lyrics that promise devotion, every breath you take, every move you make. But listen again, really listen. It isn't romance, it's obsession, it's surveillance, it's control wrapped in tenderness. Released in 1983, the song became a global phenomenon. It topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 8 weeks and became one of the most played songs in radio history. Couples danced to it at weddings, completely unaware they were swaying to a song about unhealthy fixation. Sting himself once admitted he was disturbed by fans treating it as a romantic anthem. Maybe that's the power of a rock ballad. It lets you project your own story. Whether it's passion or poison, you'll find yourself in the lyrics. Stairway to Heaven, the eternal climb. Few songs are whispered about like myths. Stairway to Heaven isn't just a ballad, it's a pilgrimage. Led Zeppelin unleashed it in 1971, but through the 80s and 90s, it became a rite of passage. Every teenager with a guitar tried to play those first notes. Every concert goer waited for that epic build, from soft acoustic strums to Jimmy Page's volcanic solo. Its lyrics remain cryptic: a woman buying her way into heaven, choices that can't be undone, roads that diverge. Robert Plant later said even he didn't fully understand what he was writing. It just flowed through him. Banned in some guitar stores as the most overplayed riff in history, mocked by comedians, worshipped by fans. Stairway is proof that a ballad doesn't just tell a story, it becomes one. With or Without You, the sound of longing. In 1987, U2 released With or Without You, and Bono's voice carried a pain that felt both personal and universal. The lyrics are simple, almost bare. I can't live with or without you, but it's that simplicity that cuts so deep. It's the sound of a relationship that can't survive, but can't be abandoned. The song was born from tension. Bono's struggle between family life and the endless demands of being in one of the world's biggest bands. When he sang it, you could hear the exhaustion of someone torn in two directions, and yet the song soared. It became U2's first #1 hit in the US. Its slow, swelling arrangement inspired countless other bands to chase the same formula: aching vulnerability, backed by atmospheric guitars. It wasn't just a song, it was a confession, and fans recognized their own scars in every line. Have you ever seen The Rain, A Storm of Its Own? Creedence, Clearwater, Revival's Have You Ever Seen the Rain? Sounds like a folk lullaby, gentle chords, melancholy lyrics, but behind the sweetness is bitterness. Written by John Fogerty in 1970, the song wasn't about weather at all. It was about a storm brewing inside CCR. The band was fracturing, plagued by infighting, lawsuits, and exhaustion. The rain was the disillusionment of success, the darkness that falls even when the sun should be shining. By the 80s and 90s, the song had taken on new meanings. For Vietnam veterans, it became an anthem of war's futility. For heartbroken listeners, it felt like the soundtrack of grief. Few ballads are so adaptable. Have You Ever Seen the Rain means something different to everyone who hears it. That's why it survives. Always Somewhere, the road song. Scorpions, the masters of German hard rock, had a secret weapon, the power ballad. And in 1979, Always Somewhere set the tone for everything to come. It's the classic story of a band on tour, missing home, missing love, but unable to stop moving. With soaring guitars and Klaus Meine's aching vocals, the song became a favorite in Europe and later in America, especially as Scorpions gained fame with Still Loving You and Wind of Change. Always Somewhere may not have charted as high as others on this list, but its legacy is in its honesty. It's the eternal struggle of rock stars and fans alike, wanting to chase dreams, but knowing it cost something precious back home. November Rain, the ballad that broke the rules. 9 minutes, orchestras, multiple solos, a music video that cost over $1 million. November Rain wasn't just a ballad, it was an opera. Guns N' Roses released it in 1991, and it instantly became one of the longest songs ever to crack the Billboard Top 10. Inspired by Axl Rose's love of Elton John-style piano ballads, it stretched every rule of rock radio. The video with Stephanie Seymour in her tragic wedding dress turned it into legend. MTV played it endlessly, cementing it as the soundtrack of grand, doomed romance. But behind the spectacle, the song aches with vulnerability. Nothing lasts forever, even cold November rain. It's both a warning and a comfort, the reminder that even pain has an end. Here Without You, the post-grunge lament. By the early 2000s, the tradition of the rock ballad was still alive, but with a modern Three Doors Down, released Here Without You in 2003. And though outside the 80s 90s golden era, it carried the same DNA. Written about long-distance love and the ache of absence, it became a staple of early 2000s rock radio. For soldiers overseas, it became a letter home in musical form. For young fans, it was the first introduction to the timeless pull of the ballad. Its inclusion in playlists, alongside 80s and 90s classics, proves one thing: the ballad never dies, it just changes clothes. Losing My Religion, the power of restraint. Few ballads are as unusual as Losing My Religion. No screaming guitars, no power chords, just a mandolin, delicate, haunting, unexpected. Released in 1991, it wasn't literally about religion. The phrase meant losing one's temper in the American South. Michael Stipe used it as a metaphor for unrequited love, for the helplessness of wanting someone who doesn't want you back. The song became R.E.M's biggest hit, earning them Grammys and MTV awards. But more importantly, it showed that a rock ballad could be fragile, instead of bombastic, whispered instead of screamed. Sometimes the softest songs cut the deepest. I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, the love that saved a band. By the late 90s, Aerosmith were legends, but then came a phone call from Hollywood. Armageddon needed a love song. Diane Warren wrote I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, and Steven Tyler sang it like his life depended on it. For Aerosmith, it kind of did. Released in 1998, the song became their first and only #1 hit. It turned them from aging rockers into radio kings again, introducing them to a whole new generation. The ballad is pure melodrama, strings, soaring vocals, lyrics of eternal devotion, but that's why it works. It's not subtle, it's a tidal. Nothing else matters. When metal cried, Metallica, the kings of thrash, the gods of aggression, and then they released Nothing Else Matters. A ballad, a love song. Soft, vulnerable, almost delicate. James Hetfield originally wrote it in private, never intending to share it. But when the band recorded it for their 1991 Black Album, it became one of their defining songs. Fans who once headbanged to Master of Puppets now cried to Nothing Else Matters. Some called it a sellout, others called it genius. Either way, it proved that even the hardest bands have a breaking point, and that ballads are sometimes the heaviest songs of all. Everybody Hurts, a Lifeline in song. Released in 1992, R.E.M's Everybody Hurts wasn't just a song, it was a message in a bottle for anyone sinking under the weight of life. Michael Stipe's voice, fragile yet steady, offered comfort. Hold on, everybody hurts. Sometimes, the song became a beacon, often played at charity events, vigils, and even on hotlines. It was more than music, it was therapy disguised as melody. A rock ballad doesn't just entertain, sometimes it saves. Sweet Child O' Mine, Love in a Riff. Not all ballads are slow, some masquerade as rock anthems. Sweet Child O' Mine is one of Slash's opening riff is legendary. But at its heart, the song is a love ballad. Axl Rose wrote the lyrics for his then-girlfriend Erin Everly, capturing the innocence and beauty he saw in her. It's a rare case where vulnerability turned into one of the most recognizable rock songs ever recorded. Proof that love and rebellion don't cancel each other out, they amplify each other. Runaway, the birth of a dynasty. Before Living on a Prayer, before arenas full of fists in the air, Bon Jovi had Runaway. Released in 1984, it was their breakout single, a ballad wrapped in hard rock energy. It told the story of a girl chasing freedom, running from conformity, searching for herself. The song wasn't just a hit, it was a prophecy. Bon Jovi would become one of the defining bands of the ballad era. mastering the art of songs that were both anthemic and intimate. Runaway was the spark. The ballads that followed were the fire. From Stairway to Heaven's mystical climb to Nothing Else Matters whispered confession. These ballads prove something extraordinary. Rock music isn't just about noise, it's about heart. In the 80s and 90s, the rock ballad became a bridge between rebellion and romance, between chaos and comfort, between the loudest moments of our lives and the quietest. And even now, decades later, these songs keep playing. In car radios, at weddings, on streaming playlists, in the private headphones of someone crying on the subway. Because the greatest ballads never end, they echo. So tell me, which of these songs is your story? Drop your favorite in the comments below. And remember, in rock history, sometimes the softest songs hit the hardest.